Hello and welcome to the Mysterious Inkwell. Today I'm gonna be talking a bit about last week's set championships and how I performed in those. And as you can see by the playmat and the 4 stitches, I managed to perform quite well. I attended a total of 5, which means I top 4'd in almost all of them. I had a single one where I went out in Swiss going 2-2 in a tournament of 15 players. So sadly didn't top 4 there, but I managed to top 4 a total of 4 times in the 5 times I participated. One of them being in a tournament of 29 players, so quite happy with that. And yeah, of course, quite happy with getting a playmat as well. Sadly, no champion playmat, but yeah, the 4 stitches are very nice, a playset. Was hoping to just get one throughout the week, and then successfully got 4, so quite happy with that. And I'm just gonna be going through the deck that I've been playing. I've been playing Emerald Steel, which has been quite strong. If we are first gonna look at our 1-drops, we are playing 4 Cursed Merfolk and 4 Captain Hook. And of course, the Merfolk quite effective at setting pace early on into the game, and quite a threat for the opponent questing for 2, and also quite punishing to challenge into, as the opponent needs to discard a card if they want to get rid of it. Captain Hook, mostly there to get some board control early, be able to remove some early threats. Really good starting second Captain Hook, while Merfolk is best if you are going first. And Captain Hook, of course, pairs really well with Mr. Smee, Bumbling Mate. Keeping him alive, not taking the 1 damage at the end of every turn. Very effective, and Mr. Smee both good at questing and getting some tempo into the game, but also very effective at keeping board control, being able to remove Madam Mim, or rather, whenever Madam Mim hits into Mr. Smee, he removes the Madam Mim, so it's a bad trade if you're playing against the Ruby Amethyst player. So quite effective for early board control, the Smee Hook combo, and then the Cursed Merfolk for early lore, of course. Yeah. And digging a bit further into the 2 costs, we're gonna be seeing 2 Babooms and 4 Flynn Riders. The Babooms not being used too often, as on 2 you wanna develop the board with either Smee, Flynn Rider, or some of the other 2 costs we're gonna see in a bit. So Baboom, mostly ink, probably gonna be cut from the deck in some of the further future iterations. But yeah, Flynn, he's okay if you have the possibility to go fast early and you don't have a Smee. Flynn Rider, of course, really good. And again, the discard when the opponent needs to challenge is also effective when they begin getting stuff on the board. So yeah, but like that's a semi-use because you want Smee often over Flynn, as he quests for 2 and also can remove a lot of stuff. But Flynn Rider, next best to Smee in the 2-drop when you want to play fast and go fast, especially against the Ruby Sapphire decks. So yeah. And then a very important 2 cost in a lot of matchups is Ursula Deceiver. In the mirror matchup, she can remove a lot of the stuff that can remove your bigger Ursula, the Deceiver of All. And in the Ruby Sapphire matchup, she can remove Be Prepared if the opponent gets to 7 ink. In Ruby Amethyst, you can remove Thief and Ambitions and Friends on the other side to stop the opponent from drawing cards or controlling the board. So quite a strong card, very useful often to drop on 2 as well. Into some matchup you just don't play and you just play fast. The Sapphire Ruby, you can save her for like later on. But yeah, quite effective, especially in the mirror matchup where you want to stop the opponent from discarding your hand and killing your characters on the board. For 2 cost, we also have a very important song, Sudden Chill, which is one of the main ways to discard the opponent's hand in this deck. Of course, discards 1 can be sung by Ursula Deceiver, but if sung by Deceiver of All, you can of course get the 2 cards discarded from your opponent, so a really effective way to control your opponent's hand and get card advantage. And talking about Ursula Deceiver of All, here she comes, the absolute strongest card in the deck. Very useful for both clearing the board, getting rid of cards in the opponent's hand, but also drawing if you either have a Prince John while there's being discarded, or when you're running Let the Storm Rage On, which of course lets you draw a card, and with the Ursula, get to play it twice, draw 2 cards. So Ursula can both keep your hand alive, give you card advantage, but also remove a lot of threats on the opponent's boards. There's also going to be some other songs in here that she can play and sing, and control a lot with. Some of the other free costs in this matchup, we have 3 Benjas and a Smash, and these are more matchup specific cards. Benja, of course, quest for 2, which is really nice, but mainly the fact that he can remove items can be used. I see I use it quite often to remove the Fishbone Quill against Sapphire Ruby, but it can also be used later on to remove the dime, so they can't get lore for free. And then sometimes it can be used against the Mufasa decks to remove the Lantern, or Steel Songs decks to get rid of their flutes to reduce their board control and their lore gain. And the Smash is in there, mainly in the mirror matchup, to be honest, to be able to remove the Ursula Deceiver of All. Playing 1, though, you rarely find it, but when you have it in the mirror matchup, it can be quite nice on free to just get rid of the Ursula, stop them from taking control of the match. So yeah. And another important free cost in the deck is, of course, Prince John. Allows you to control, get more cards in hand, be able to play more. Good way to keep your card advantage. Really effective combined with the Ursula and the Sudden Chills and the Merfolks and Flynn Rider. As you whenever you discard, you draw, so you get 2 cards advantage instead of just the 1 from the discard. So quite an effective card. And also he can quest for 2, which is nice, and the ward often makes him able to finish off games if you get to 18 or 19. You can play the Prince John, and in a lot of scenarios he's enough to finish off the game, as there are not a lot of decks running anything that can kill him with the ward. Of course, grab your swords and be prepared can stop him, but often you get to 18, maybe they wipe the board at that point, and then you can play the Prince John, maybe if you're lucky top deck him. So yeah, quite effective in that regard. Another song, free drop that's really strong, Strength of Raging Fire. I'm only running 2, but after this week I realized I need to run 4. Really effective at removing a lot of targets at once, or just removing one big target. If you get your Ursula down, then on turn 4, you can sing Strength of Raging Fire twice for 4 damage if you have another unit to play, which makes it possible to remove either 2 characters with 4 willpower, or you could remove characters with up to 8 willpower, so sometimes you can get rid of the Flaversham of a Sapphire player to stop the card draw, or you can stop the Robin Hood, the big Robin Hood of a Steel Song player. So quite effective at removing board control. Definitely going to be running 4 of those going forward. And one of the last card in the free drop is Hypnotize. Kind of an iffy card. Of course, gives the card advantage, and really effective if you have a Prince John in play. But yeah, hard to get off, especially often, because if you're on turn 3, you want to play something to get board control. You want to play your Prince John, you want to play the Ursula, but sometimes it can be a decent turn 4 play. If, let's say, your turn 3 is Prince John, turn 4, Hypnotize, and then 1 drop a Merfolk or a Captain Hook down is a pretty decent play, because you develop card advantage and you get something on the board. So can sometimes be a turn 4 play, but really often just sees ink. But when you play it in combination with a Prince John, it's quite effective. But gonna probably be continuing to run 2, maybe 1. Not quite sure about that yet, but it's an interesting card and can be used very well. Moving into the 4 drops, I only have 1, Friar Tuck. Of course, both giving card advantage and board control. Pretty effective in that regard, and also sometimes surprising people a bit, because some people are expecting the Friar Tuck and might go down, so they have just a card or 2 lower than you. But what they don't always realize is that Friar Tuck can discard both players' hands if both players are on equal amount of cards. So you can sometimes catch people off if they're saving like a single card, say a Whole New World or Be Prepared, and you have 3 cards in hand. You ink one, you play Friar Tuck, then you both discard, and they're not always ready for that. And of course, if you have Prince John down during that play, you're discarding one, but still drawing one because they're also discarding one. So you're not really losing anything, especially if you are stuck in hand with a card that you can't play, for example. Now, moving into the top end, the bit more expensive cards, which are probably getting cut from the deck as they are too slow. We start out with 4 Beasts, and Beast being a nice card to get down. Of course, quest for 2, you can draw cards off him. But this deck, in a lot of scenarios, you would rather just want to go to 3 or 4 ink and then just play a lot of smaller characters and go fast. When I did play him, he was quite effective. But also, the card draw from him, it's too easy to shut down, so often you would, of course, have the 2 lore you could quest for, and then you had the big swing on your turn with 7 damage, but just doesn't really seem worth it. Would probably be better to have something that you can play earlier, and also, like, reaching 5 ink in this deck is not always gonna happen if you're playing in a really aggressive start, and then it's quite annoying to top deck Beast later on. So yeah. Some other cards that can be quite annoying to top deck if you don't get to the appropriate amount of ink is Tinkerbell Giant Fairy and the Robin Hood Daydreamer, which, when I have been able to get to the 6 ink threshold and play them, they've been quite effective. Tinkerbell I've used in a couple of games to wipe boards with, and Robin Hood Daydreamer, of course, to quest for quite a large amount. But the big problem again being that most of the time I felt like when I got to 6 ink and played these, I felt like there was other cheaper cards that I could have used that would have made me win the game before I got to that point. So they seem kind of redundant if you're playing faster, which the deck is capable of. Yeah, so that's the list. I can talk a bit about matchups. I didn't get too big of a very pool of matchup. One I played quite a lot was the mirror matchup, and there was 2 kind of types of deck in the mirror matchup. There was the Bucky Floodborn discard matchup, where that matchup is quite beneficial for this deck, because you're going faster than it, and often you can quest faster than they can, and you have the ability to remove the Morph or the Robin Hood that they want to shift on too early before they can do it, meaning they don't get the discard off you. And sometimes you just dump your hand or discard their hand before they can get their discard engine going. So yeah, that matchup is quite good for us. And then, as I talked about, the deck is capable of going a bit faster. And that matchup I had I had a lot of trouble against. Didn't win a single game against the faster matchup. So yeah, definitely gonna be working on a faster version of the deck. For some of the other more common matchups, there is the Ruby Amethyst matchup, which this deck absolutely loves to play into. You have a big advantage, you're faster than them, and often you can discard their hand before they get to the ink threshold where they can play all of the big stuff. If you can stop them from getting to like the 6 ink where Madame Medusa and Lady Tremaine becomes available, you basically secured the win. The big problem in that matchup is if they begin bouncing Rabbits or Maleficents to draw leather cards and playing friends on the other side, you're in trouble. But that's also where the Ursula Deceiver is important, going in and removing the friends on the other side so they don't play it or sing it on turn 3 or 4. And if you can deny their card draw, often you just win out, especially because they have a hard time getting to be prepared. Some of the other matchups I have played, I had a single game against Steel Song, where I felt like I had a lot of control. If you're able to shut down their whole new world with the Ursula Deceiver, or just by discarding it, by discarding their whole hand, you basically win the game. Being able to shut down a whole new world and grab your swords in that matchup is key, because if they don't play a whole new world, they kind of just run out of tempo. And if they don't have a whole new grab your swords, they have quite a hard time clearing your whole board. So yeah, that matchup seems favorable as far as I've seen, and but mainly just focus on shutting down the whole new world so they can't draw 5 new cards. And for Sapphire Ruby, which I also played once, when you shut down the Fishbone Quill and discard their hand fast, they have quite a hard time. If you can't shut down the Flavor Sham draw engine with their items and their Fishbone Quill, you're gonna get and don't have the ability to discard their whole hand fast enough, you're gonna get in trouble because they can draw cards up fast and ink a lot and play all their big stuff. And at that point, they're just gonna take over the board. But most of the time, we could deny that before it happens. One matchup that is a very big problem for us, though, is the Sapphire Steel. Luckily, I didn't play that in any of the games this week. But that's quite a big problem for the deck. As far as I've seen from the other Emerald Steel matches that have been played against it, because they get a Cogsworth down, and you have a hard time removing anything on their board at that point, and they can just remove everything you have, and I get a lot of value from the stuff, but it is winnable. You need to play fast and hope that you can shut down a whole new world, and that they draw a bit unlucky. It seems that's the way to go. So yeah, that matchup is quite tough. Another matchup that can be quite tough for this deck is the Amber Ruby Mufasa deck, as there's quite a lot of value in that deck, especially if they start. You have a problem because if they get to Mother Gothel and Rapunzel combo, they outdraw your discard, and Mufasa, of course, hitting stuff from top of the deck is a problem for you. And then in general, that deck just has quite a lot of ways to get value and get stuff on the board and keep your hand full. And also, if they get to drop a Churnabug late, it's often quite hard to remove. So that seems to be a tough matchup if they win the die roll and get to start. And then if you win the die roll with Emerald Steel and get to start, there's quite a better opportunity as long as you get to discard their hand, remove the Mother Gothels when they come down. That seems to be the way to win that matchup. But yeah. Didn't play any Jafar wheel decks, so don't know how that matchup is. I would think it's quite good for us, as we can remove the wheel pretty easily, and if we can stop them from shifting to the big Jafar, and they're also in trouble. So yeah, that matchup seems quite good. Oh yeah, as well as I played a single Amethyst Sapphire deck, and that was one of those decks that I could shut down pretty easily, get a lot of stuff on board early, discard their hand. And again, the same with the Ruby Amethyst. If they get to bounce their Rabbits and their Maleficent around, you have a problem. But the thing about the blue deck is, the Sapphire Amethyst deck is, it seems to be a little bit slower, which is an advantage for us, and they don't have as much removal as Ruby Sapphire has, so I feel like that matchup is actually better for us. But yeah, both of the matchups are quite good. So yeah, I don't think I have much more to say about the deck or the deck list so far. I hope you enjoyed watching the video, and if you did, you can drop a like and maybe subscribe. I'll be posting some more videos, probably playing the game and also opening packs and stuff like that. And yeah, hopefully you'll tune in again to watch for future videos. Bye bye.